caring mentors, and quality programs to the young people of our region. That work continues today with our 11 clubhouses, 7 school district sites in Allegheny, Beaver, Fayette, and Somerset counties, with more than 12,000 children and teenagers participating in programs that boost their academic performance, uplift their mental, social, and physical health, and empower them to pursue their passions and build skills as they become adults and prepare for their future. Of the utmost importance to us, of course, is the health and safety of every child and teen that walks through our clubhouse doors. In a world with technology that changes every day, this commitment continues to take on a new meaning. We acknowledge the promise and opportunities that technology like AI presents, as we've served hundreds of teens through our groundbreaking Artificial Intelligence Pathways Institute in partnership with PPG over the past 7 years. But we also recognize the potential harm it can pose if appropriate safeguards are not put in place. Today's discussion will provide perspectives from leaders across education, health, and government. But personally, I'm most excited about the opportunity for our passionate club teen leaders to have a voice in shaping the policies that will impact their future. Thank you, Governor Shapiro, for your leadership on this important topic, and thank you for your vision of a Commonwealth where technology is embraced, celebrated, and used in a safe and healthy way. With that, I'm proud to turn it over to Governor Shapiro to lead this roundtable discussion.
Well, Chris, thank you very much. And it is good to be in a Boys and Girls Club because places like this are what help young people learn. It's what helps keep our communities safe. And I think it really represents the fabric, the stickiness of a community. And so I'm excited to be here. I understand, by the way, I got a text from him on the way over that Chris DeLuzio learned to play basketball on this court. He wanted me to know he's a good basketball player. We'll have to play a little one-on-one here at some point. All right, perfect. But Chris, I really appreciate your leadership, and I appreciate the leadership of Representative Kulik, who joins me here today. Thank you for what you do for this wonderful community. And you've got 3 leading members of my administration who are here: the Secretary of Education, Dr. Rowe. We have the Secretary of Health, a stranger to no one in this room because she comes from this community, Dr. Bogan. We're grateful to have you here. And Secretary Al Schmidt, who leads our Department of State. I'm going to talk about why he is here in a moment and how important it is. I came here today to listen, so I'm going to share a few thoughts at the top, but then I really want to listen to you, because all of you now have the opportunity to shape public policy here in Pennsylvania. And I want to tell you about my journey of listening and how it leads us to here today. Prior to being your governor, I served as Attorney General of Pennsylvania. And I remember after a horrific school shooting in another state, I urged state lawmakers to come together and do a whole host of things to prevent that kind of violence in our schools. Unfortunately, they didn't do some, but others they did do, including creating a way for young people to be able to anonymously report a tip for the potential for violence in their schools. There's an app, you may have it on your phones if you're in school, called Safe to Say. It was designed for you to be able to let law enforcement know anonymously if, God forbid, someone was bringing a gun to school. I was shocked after a few months of looking at the data off Safe to Say, because instead of people texting, hey, God forbid, Johnny, Sally, whoever was bringing a weapon to school, over 85% of the texts that came in actually were texts saying, I need help. I want to hurt myself. I have a friend that's contemplating suicide. 85% of the texts we got were about mental health. And I said, I'm going to do something about this. After getting elected governor, we invested almost $400 million in hiring more mental health counselors in our schools. We've got over 230 schools that have hired new counselors. Others have expanded that to give students more outlets for people to talk to. But as we've been doing that work that was inspired by the voices of students I listened to who said they need extra help, I'm continuing to listen to students, and now they're asking for a different kind of help. They're saying, we absolutely need those counselors. We need people we can talk to. But actually, more and more, we're finding people we can talk to online who actually aren't people. They're chatbots. And so more and more students and more school administrators are saying this is an area we got to dig in on and make sure that we've got some healthy regulations, that we've got the right policies in place in our schools to be able to keep kids safe. After listening to some students talk to me about these chatbots, I was with my staff in the office, and we actually downloaded one of those chatbots. And we began to engage in a conversation with it. And I said in the chat, I'm struggling with my mental health. Are you someone that I can talk to? And this chatbot writes back, or types back, whatever, yes. I said, well, I'm in Pennsylvania. I would need to talk to a licensed mental health professional in Pennsylvania. And this chatbot said, I am a licensed mental health professional in Pennsylvania. Remember, this is not a person. This is just something you download in the App Store, and it was an AI chatbot who was telling me, hey, I could get medical advice there. Well, let's be clear. They're not licensed in Pennsylvania. They're not qualified to tell you what you should or shouldn't do as it relates to your mental health. And I think that it poses a real risk to students and to others across Pennsylvania. So when I delivered my budget address a couple weeks ago, I talked about having some healthy regulations in this place. And I called on the legislature to pass some laws on it. And I asked our Secretary of State, Al Schmidt, who deals with licensing, this is why he's here, super important, who deals with licensing in the state, to really dig in and conduct an investigation on these chatbots that were claiming to be licensed mental health professionals. Because to be a licensed professional in Pennsylvania, you need him to give you a certificate. Last I checked, he hasn't given out any certificates to these AI chatbots. So why are we here today? Number one, I want to make sure you know how important this issue is to me. Number two, I want to make sure you know, I'm announcing it here today at the Boys and Girls Club, that Secretary Schmidt is engaged in this investigation, and as needed, we're working with the Attorney General of Pennsylvania on this, and he's supportive of this work we're doing. But then as we think, third, as we think about what the rules need to be, what the laws need to be, I need your help. I need your advice, and I need your guidance if we're going to do this right. You know, it's one thing to just kind of listen to the adults that hang out in the Capitol every day. It's way more helpful for me to come here and listen to you. So that's the purpose of our conversation. You got the guy who regulates it here, the woman who leads our health department and so can speak to these issues from a health perspective, and the woman that leads our education department and oversees all the schools in Pennsylvania. So you have everyone who's in charge across the state here, and we're ready to listen. And that's what brings us here today. So I want to say, number one, I appreciate you being here. And number two, I want you to tell us what we need to do in this space. We've got no rules for this conversation other than treat people with respect. If someone else is talking, let them finish, and just kind of raise your hand or whatever to be recognized, and we'll just keep it going. And there are no right answers or wrong answers. I just want to know what's in your heart, on your mind, and I just want you to be really open and honest with me. Okay? Deal? All right. So Chris, I'll turn it to you. Maybe you can call on somebody here to get us started, or unless somebody wants to jump in here.
Yeah, I think my teens are uniquely positioned to, not my teens, the incredible teens of the Boys and Girls Clubs are uniquely positioned to answer this question because it's something that it's not new to them. As you mentioned, the state provides resources actually to us through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency to provide resources and support to help facilitate conversations around mental health. And so I know a few of our teens here have participated in this discussion before, and so not to put anyone on the spot here, but I know Layla and Tayshawn, both of you participated in a conversation a few years ago with the Surgeon General about teen mental health and discussions on how social media can impactful to that. And so facilitate this discussion now on the adaptation of chatbots and other things. I'd love to hear your perspective on what you've experienced.
And just speak in your mic so everybody can hear, okay? Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah, you're up.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Layla King. I'm a current senior at Pittsburgh Kappa, Yes, and I would say I've really only started to see like a very big rise in like the use of AI specifically like among students probably in like the last few years. Of course, we were always using programs like Grammarly, like stuff like
Right.
that, but then I've seen it kind of with like the rise of like open AI, ChatGPT, all those things. It's become much more accessible and much more it's been able to cover a lot more things. Like now you can use it for your homework. You can use it to, like you said, sort of use it as a companion in a sense. And I think that's like really interesting. I was talking about this earlier that I found out that's one of the top uses for it, specifically among young people and older people. ChatGPT is mostly used for either homework help or companionship. And I feel like it kind of speaks to a lot of the issues that are going on with young people today, loneliness, isolation, stress from home, from school, from all these different sources. I've also had the opportunity, besides the work that I've done in Boys and Girls Club, I'm also a member of PA Youth Advocacy, where we work closely. We help do our statewide proclamations for the mental health days, and then something really big that we help push for is excused mental health days for students. It's not meant to be a thing where they're allowed to skip more school that's already allocated for them, but instead to allow them to specifically take sort of days in order to protect their mental health. And not just that, it's also, and we've been working with a lot of legislators to work it and to be more comprehensive, not just, we need excused mental health days, but how can we actually take mental health more seriously in schools in general as a whole.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, I'm not asking you to give us names or anything. Do you know other students who use these AI companions?
I honestly, sorry, I don't want to, well, I know like some of the kind of like educationally, I've met like educational like teachers and like leaders who use it as a companion, and I have like even my niece, because I think it's also, I'm in high school, so I've had, like I think I had my first phone since maybe I was 11, but a lot of kids are starting getting technology like iPads, cell phones a lot earlier.
Yeah.
So even I've had like maybe like my niece and like other younger family members, because they've kind of never really had to experience a time like before when it was popular to always have a phone, a cell phone on you, an iPad on you, kind of use it in those ways, not even necessarily like, I'm specifically seeking therapy, but just like, like I can talk to it about this, that, and the third, and it'll give me a response.
Sure. Okay. Others? Anybody else want to jump? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tayshawn Lyons. I'm a 17-year-old junior at Shadyside Academy. To Layla's point, one major problem I see is the over-reliance with AI, and I would say the reason for those problems that she talked about and those struggles that us teens have is because of the lack of resource and the lack of the feeling of safe space. And I feel like those chatbots and those AI companions provide that resource quickly. And one thing I also realize that does, especially for academics, is it takes away our cognitive ability. It takes away our ability to write well, to read well, and to analyze well. And not because we're not good at it, but because we rely so much on it to the point where we don't actually work on it in school, and we don't see the real importance of it. And we focus more on getting a result rather than progressing. And one thing I do see at my school is very rigorous, so we really define ourselves by our grades and by what the results that we get on paper, what our GPA is, and who how competitive we are. And I guess that pressure is kind of what pushes us to try to get to those answers faster, or try to get to those results faster, because we feel like we're all that we are is a number. And I guess AI kind of supports that in helping us get those answers better. Like, we don't really focus that much on how much we took out of a lesson or how much we gained from a lesson. We just the only thing that really matters to us is like getting the results or getting a good grade, just so that we can get the right grades or get the right acceptances. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yaron, Jorah, were you going to say something before?
Well, I was agreeing with you, but so I think that what AI and technology in general does really well is magnify who we are as society. And I believe that there's some fix through regulation, but the fix can be more systemic. If we optimize our school systems for human connection, we will see kids that can talk to humans rather than going to robots. Right now, we're optimizing for the grades, the homework, the numbers that, as far as I'm concerned, don't mean much. And that's where you see the technology follow. So I'll use it to do my homework. I'll use it to get better grades. And the teachers are under so much pressure. I used to work with schools. And to know if it's going to be fun, I would ask teachers, do you get time to talk to each other? Most of the time it's no, and it's very hard to move anything in a school. So I believe that we need to dig deeper.
Guys, did you want to add anything? And I'm going to ask our team at CMS, if you could turn one of the speakers around so it's facing us. There's a weird echo and it's a little hard to hear.
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys. Just press the phone. It's not just me, right?
No. Hello. Kind of going off what they said over there, there's definitely an overuse issue in my school. I feel like it's like an easy way to get out of your assignments and homework and classwork. And in my classes, some of the students, they're not even paying attention. They're doing whatever. And then whenever the assignments due, they'll just take a picture real quick, upload it to AI, get it done, and turn it right in. It's like you're not even learning. You're just doing whatever. And it's like, what's the point? Like, you're going to school, you're just doing whatever. You're not learning anything. You're not taking anything in. And then whenever test comes around and people are doing bad on the test, they're like, oh, this is a bad teacher. He don't know what he's doing. He's doing it. But it's like you're not paying attention in class. You're just using AI to do your assignments. And it's kind of sad, honestly, because that's stuff that you could get a teacher fired for, or you could make the teacher feel bad about themselves, because it's like the students, they're failing the class or they're not doing too good, and the teacher might think it's on them, but the whole time the students aren't paying attention or they're using AI. And then also on the mental part, I feel like students my age, they don't really have a lot of people to go to. Like that's often an issue. So yeah, they'll just go to their AI. Like Snapchat added an AI recently. I think it was last year, a couple years ago. They'll go in there, they'll talk about their issues, and then the bot, they'll give them a response. And it's like, that's not a real human. They don't have real feelings. But it's the only thing that they have, basically. Because even myself, like at a different event I went to, they were talking about how us, even teens, should be stepping up for our classmates and our peers more, instead of relying on adults and our counselors. They said if you step up more yourself, then that kind of helps. But I still feel like some students, they don't feel comfortable opening up, because that's often used against them. Like some people, they'll open up to you, and then the person that they open up to, they're losing an argument or they're having a competition. Now they're bringing up what you're going through just to get you off your game or to make you feel bad about yourself, which is kind of messed up. But I feel like that's why a lot of students also use AI as a person to talk to, because they can't really use that against you. There's not really much that they can do to like use it against you.
Do you think there should be an age limit or an age where you're not allowed to use an AI companion, and an age maybe where you are allowed to use it? That's for any of the students here.
I feel like maybe like at like 18 maybe, because kids now, they're little. There's elementary students, they have, how she was saying, people are getting phones earlier and iPads earlier. That AI, you could download AI real quick. There's blockers that your parents can install, but there's so many ways you can get around that. It's so easy nowadays to just get around stuff like that. And it's sad too how I said it's sad how easy it is to just get away from stuff like that. But I definitely think like maybe 18, because you're starting to mature more. Maybe if you already went through them years of experience, like learning and stuff in your school. So maybe opening up AI to legal adults.
So basically not be able to use it till after high school.
Yeah.
By the way, as an aside, you think we should stop students from being able to use their phones during the school day? Raise your hand if you'd vote yes on that. Okay. By the way, y'all are giving me the same look my kid gave me when I said I was for that.
Get them out of school.
Yeah. Doc, why don't you share your thoughts on this?
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. But, My name's Kelly Marsh. I'm with Pennsylvania Unplugged. And put your mic a little closer. Sorry.
It's real hard to hear, guys. There's
Yeah,
a weird echo. I think you got to either turn around the speakers or something. It's kind of hitting us from a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Sorry. So hopefully you can hear me now. So yeah, we hear from parents and kids all across the Commonwealth through our grassroots advocacy work with PA Unplugged that they are very concerned, amongst other things, the prevalence of these AI companion tools and chatbots that have just rapidly descended on us. And a lot of the things that have been brought up today are actually along the same lines that we hear. So with Tayshawn, you know, I think with education, there's a lot of focus on the product and not on the process. And that, you know, with the age, with Josiah, we have been saying just where parents are listening and kids are listening and experiencing this themselves in real time, that child health experts are saying that these undermined development and they are posing unprecedented risks to our kids, teens, and their families. We worry about the simulated relationships and the effects that that's going to have on their social development. And again, with kids, this is such a critical time. We worry about the damaging and distorted effects that this is going to have on basic fundamental skills, emotional regulation, conflict resolution. And just to be clear, these chatbots are entering our homes from every angle, whether it's embedded into a stuffed animal or packaged as a princess or a character a toy, or installed on school-issued devices. And without any data and without any transparency or assurance that this is safe, we have no guardrails, and we don't even have any guidelines for best practices on how to navigate that. And this is all happening, I will also say, this is all happening at a time, right, when many families are looking to pull back on the device-based childhood that is just so prevalent today. So it's really feeling like these companion tools and these AI chatbots are just yet another blow to protecting childhood and adolescence.
In your experience, when you're talking to young people who rely on these companion bots for companionship, do they understand that it's not a person?
No, I mean, definitely younger children, absolutely not. And then, you know, we don't have, I don't have teenagers, so I can't speak first person, but, you know, from, third degree, we do hear that there is a line that is blurred. Because again, I think it's really important for the adults in the room to realize that technology has just been it's a part of their life. It has never not been a part of their life. They have a hard time putting the phone down. It's we have students that say, like, you can't take the phone away from me because it's like cutting off a limb. And so you have to understand that they don't know any other world. So to answer your question, the lines are already blurred.
Yeah. One of the reforms that we've called for is periodically in the back and forth with an AI companion that there be a prompt that pops up on the screen literally reminding people, I am not a human being, this is a computer, just to kind of break someone maybe out of that spell of maybe losing themselves in this. So, thanks.
Hello, I'm Erin Ruggiero. I'm a high school English teacher. I'm also a member of the NEA and PSEA Board of Directors. So I've been a part of a lot of these conversations. And, as a teacher, I see the response, especially a high school teacher, I see the responsibility in supporting our students in becoming strong digital citizens. It's the 21st century. This isn't going anywhere. But, I was speaking with Dr. Rowe when we got here, and she was mentioning that she was speaking with some students about how the students identify educators as the heartbeat of a school. And I think that word heartbeat is really important when we think about human connection and keeping our students safe. We want our kids not to just be good digital citizens, we want them to be great citizens. And a great citizen knows how to interact with another person. They know where to seek help. They know how to support each other. And we want to make sure that we are safeguarding our students' privacy and that we are giving them the appropriate support and becoming strong thinkers and strong people to contribute to our society.
Aaron, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we've got to give more tools. Actually, my wife and I should say actually my wife, she's been the leader on this effort, have been really trying to be purposeful about teaching young people not what to think about content, not to have certain views on things, but to be able to discern fact from fiction. And so we started under Dr. Rowe's leadership with a new toolkit on digital literacy. And I think that gets us partway there. It gives teachers some added tools to use. But one of the things I wanted to announce today is we just launched about an hour ago a new toolkit that's available for teachers, for school administrators, for students, and for parents. I'm a father of 4 trying to figure out my way through this as well. A new toolkit to deal specifically with AI, companion bots, and other related types of technology. pa.gov/AI safety, and that website is now live, and this toolkit exists for your help. And what I'm going to ask this group to do is tell us what's good on it, tell us what's missing, tell us what else we need. We literally launched it today, and we want your help. So that's going to be a really important piece, is just empowering a parent like me to know how to talk to my kids about this, empowering teachers to have all the tools that they need, and to be able to build in the safeguards that we so desperately need. Doctor?
Is this on? Okay, good. I'm Jillian Bixel. I'm the Assistant Superintendent at Avonworth School District. And I really appreciate your toolkit. I'm looking forward to actually diving into it because we have created our own toolkits.
Okay.
We've created a handbook, guidebook for our teachers, for our students, for our parents. We've really tried to make sure that people are obviously aware of AI, but also how to use it in an appropriate way in school. And also, like, where is it coming from? Why is it here? How does it work? It's not just, hey, this is this shiny tool that we can use, but also understanding the implications of using AI as well. We are teaching a class at our high school called AI and Ethics. And it counts as an English course in the senior year and really focuses on the listening and speaking standards. And then also on the flip side of that course, we're offering a class called Human Flourishing. And we are adamant about making sure that the human stays in school. And yes, we are also adamant about teaching students how to appropriately use AI tools, but knowing that it does take your thinking away. It really can. I agree with you. I think that's the danger of it. And we want to make sure that we have thinking classrooms and thinking school districts and thinking students and thinking teachers. And we don't want to rely too much on the tools. While they are pretty amazing, I have to say, I mean, the PowerPoints that AI tools can now create are way better than anything I ever created. But, there's a balance, and I think we are constantly seeking that balance, but making sure that we're putting humans first.
I want to bring, sure, go ahead.
My name is Nick Flower. I'm a clinical psychologist down the road here in Bridgeville, and I specialize in OCD and anxiety disorders. And the thing that you were saying just now about, critical thinking skills, and Tayshawn, you said that too. I think we have to think about with this new technology. It is amazing. I mean, AI technology and the screens. I mean, I remember when I used a mouse for the first time in like 1984 in a school classroom, and it was like magic. And that makes me very old, I know. But what we're doing with the screens these days and the ubiquity of the screens and this new technology, it's coming at us at light speed. And we have to appreciate what that robs us of. And that robs us of our ability, in particular, like let's take the screens, for example, because we mentioned that a minute ago. It robs our ability, and I think we need to protect this in our children and our adults too. This is about children, but this is about adults and the elderly. It robs our ability to effectively deal with boredom and to learn how to deal with boredom and to learn how to deal with conversations and the back and forth between human interactions that we have. And this technology, it's great. It can do a lot of things. It's going to do everything. It's going to pack our lunch one day. It's going to keep us safe from all road accidents and make us a really good old-fashioned or something. But it also robs us of a great deal, and I love that you're doing this and your leadership on this. I love these toolkits that are being proposed. That's going to be part of it. I have some other suggestions later, which we might get to, but I just wanted to say, really think about what it robs. It does so much, but it really robs us of those really core functions of what it means to be a human and learn those developmental skills that are so important.
And I think Dr. Flower will confirm too, but also as a coach, I can tell you, it's not only children using AI for mental health. All of us are. I mean, clients that come to me, they come to me after they try to work with AI on solving their life problems. And I would go back, Layla brought it at the beginning, that we have a loneliness pandemic. Like you said also, I ran a grief circle at some conference, and somebody brought his young child, his 20-some, and somebody brought his son in his 20s, and after that he came to me and was like, my generation doesn't do that. We don't talk vulnerably about things. We don't even know how to do that. So yeah, I think it's really, let's go back to that loneliness pandemic. And then I do not know that the tech is the threat here. The tech is a tool. It's just being used. Maybe
so
not.
What's the threat?
What's that?
What's the threat?
That we're not using the tech to solve the problem we want to solve. Let's take that AI and put the loneliness pandemic in it, and bring the students in to help with that. The Digital Harbor Foundation in Maryland paid students to train teachers on technology, and guess what? Like they knew more about what's going wrong and how it's being misused, and they informed teachers, and students were part of that conversation of how to actually leverage the technology in ways that can move. The first question is, where do we want to go? Then you look at the tool and you apply it.
Zev, you agree with your dad or you disagree?
Yeah, so AI is like really big right now, and I definitely see it having a strong presence in the future. And so I think it's a good tool. You should be able to know how to use it, but it's just like a matter of like being too dependent on it. Like I see on like social media, some people like say, when I have to text someone back, but I ran out of free chats. So it's like you can become too emotionally dependent on it, and you can't even like function. Like doctor was saying, like you're not thinking, like you just think through AI sometimes. So I definitely think it's important. You should know how to use it because it's going to be in the future, but there definitely should be like some guidelines because a lot of people rely on it way too much.
Do you know people, I'm not asking you to say any names, do you know people who kind of get wrapped up in it?
I can't think of anyone specific, but a lot of it's just common.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think there should be some rules? That's what you just said. You're against one of the rules I laid out before about taking the phones out of schools. That's fair. You voted no. What would you vote yes for?
Honestly, it's hard to say, but like specific guidelines that we should like set in place. But there's definitely something that needs to be done because there's too much you can do with AI. It's a very powerful tool.
All right. So do you think if a company's got one of these AI companions that you download in the App Store or whatever, and that AI companion is misrepresenting themselves, saying they're a doctor like Dr. Bogan, you think that should be allowed or not allowed?
No.
Should not be allowed?
Should not be allowed.
And what would you do about it? Like, any idea what you would do to try to stop that? Okay. You got to look at the guy right over there. Yeah. Schmidt, over there. See him?
Oh, yeah.
Would you call him?
Yeah, I'd rather
right,
talk
good.
to him than...
We talked, and I asked him how he's using AI, and I mentioned that it makes up things. And you asked me, what? Yeah. What does that mean? So even like saying that, that this tool will make up stuff. Like you do homework with it, it doesn't know something, it may just write a story there.
Right.
And that's not, we need to spell out what it does.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. This kind of stems from a lot of the different points that I've been hearing, but I'm currently taking psychology, and something my AP psychology teacher, she has her own very specific points about AI use, but something she always talks to us about is that like AI, specifically like generative AI, it's kind of meant to be based on the human brain, but coming specifically from like a health and like a scientific level, we don't even know everything there is to know about how the human brain works works, how it functions. So having all of these AI tools, these companion tools, these tools, it's basically synthesizing all of this information that has already been found out by humans and kind of synthesizing it in a way where it's not always used in the right way in the terms of AI companions, or even completely accurate in terms of like doing it for homework or this, that, and the third. So I definitely agree with a lot of the points that have been made, where there really needs to be restrictions and limitations, not only in terms of age, but in terms of how it's used, of how it's able to be used. I think a big problem specifically with AI is that it's just like being thrown out right now. There's no rules, no restrictions. It's just kind of thrown to us, and we're allowed to use it essentially however we want. We don't even have any real evidence on the long-term effects of consistent AI use. I know there's an MIT study that came out a while ago, but that still isn't fully comprehensive, and it doesn't have any long-term results about how children from the ages of my niece, from like 10 to 11, now over the course of the years, how constant AI use for homework, for companionship, for this, that, and the third, how it works, how it affects their cognitive ability, especially, like I said, going back to the point, we don't know everything about how development works. We don't know everything about how the brain works.
Right.
So now we're having something unnaturally come in and essentially take the information that it is able to know about how the brain works and kind of skew that developmental process.
In terms of those restrictions,
Yes.
right, some limitations, some guardrails on it, who should be in charge of putting those guardrails in place? Should it be the student, the parent, the school, or the technology company?
I think it needs to be comprehensive. I think it needs to be a little bit of everybody. Of course, most of the technology companies, they're going to value their profit. They're going to want to value their end goal. But I think they're also normal people. They're also humans, and they still have their own goals and wants. So I think it definitely needs to be a community-based effort of not only how we feel, what do we actually know, what needs to be figured out in order to make something comprehensive that actually is better for the future.
Yeah, Layla made a great point. Back to your question earlier, you said, what is the threat? And I thought that the threat is the urgency that the youth feel to weaponize it. Given its capabilities, it has like the ability to do anything that you want it to do. And the fact that it's able to be so personalized, that's why I agree with how she said it should be comprehensive, because we can't only rely on people to want to use it in the way that we really want them to. It's also the environment that we create around them that like pushes them to do that way. I know for a lot of teenagers, for a lot of adolescents, like finding a quick fix, finding a safe place to go to, that's like really common. And I guess the way we push them to do that, by not giving them that resource anywhere else, by not giving them like a better option, I feel like a better option is really what would help. And also like even in schools, like a better option. So when it comes to, academics, I would say like with teaching, making our students feel more safer with their authentic work. I feel like AI really takes away our value as humans in authenticity. So people don't really value that much like how authentic they are as a human, how they show up to a classroom and
I want to press you on that. How would a teacher do that? How would a teacher help you be your authentic self instead of the person that gets kind of filtered through a screen?
So my English teacher at my school, Shady Side Academy, the way she grades is more personally based, because she's seen a uprise in the way that that students rely on AI, and they use AI for their essays or for their writing or to answer for discussions. But she really values how somebody truly thinks about something and how they personally think. Like, how do they show up as a person when they answer each question? How do they show up as a person when they write their essays? And like, whether or not it may be flawed in terms of how perfect it is, it's truly them, and that's like really what matters. Yeah. So I guess making teenagers feel more comfortable being truly themselves rather than being more infatuated with fitting into a materialistic ideal, that is like really how teachers could bring it out.
Okay, so you've got a superintendent here, different school, right? But do you want the superintendent, you get to be superintendent for the day, right? Would you change the way the grading policy works?
Yes. It's not only just the grading policy, but also like the culture of the school and the curriculum. Just not making everybody feel like that they're more than a number. Not making them feel like they're in competition with how many numbers they're able to produce, and like like making that feel like that devalues them as a human, because I feel like that is what pushes people to abuse AI, not use it as a tool, because it can be used as a tool and it also can be used as a weapon. But the reason that it's used as a weapon is because we're pushed and we're influenced to weaponize it, to give it what we need, rather than using it as a tool to better enhance the work that we put out.
All right, Doctor, are you willing to make that change? What do you think? Respond to that. I'd love to hear your reaction.
Well, I think that there's a couple things that we can do in terms of school. I love what you're saying about make it more personalized. I think when a student walks into our classroom, they're entering at a certain level of growth and understanding, no matter what the class is. And then over the course of the year, right, hopefully they're learning and they're able to demonstrate what they've learned and how much they've grown. So to adjust grading to a degree, it sounds probably easier than it is, because you have 150 students, and to grade individually for every one of those is tricky. But there are some things and some guidelines I think that teachers could follow that would make it more personal and have the students almost like setting goals. And so if you're setting your own personal goals and you're reaching those goals, then that grade really, maybe you and the teacher have talked about how do I get an A? What would I have to do to get the A? And then you kind of map out what you have to do, and it's like your pathway to get there. So,
Erin, is that practical?
I actually so one word I want to hit on that Tayshawn brought up was culture. So I teach a senior film class, and recently they were writing a film analysis, and we talked about AI and what tools are appropriate to use in your film analysis and what are not. But for me in that class, it was about creating a culture of respect and saying, hey, I'm also a mom of an 8th grader and a 5th grader, and I know what life is like outside of this place when you go. You're going. Life has changed dramatically since I started teaching 25 years ago. I am giving you the respect to have the time to do this in class and the support from me that you need. And you need to treat my assignment with integrity and do it yourself. And they seem to respect that, so just creating a climate of respect and understanding that we're working together to build skills for their future is really important. And then on the other side of what Tayshawn was mentioning is actually using the AI as a tool. So for instance, later in the semester, we'll be writing film reviews, and once they write their own authentic film review, then we use AI to change the voice of that review, and then they evaluate which one is the strongest. So there are different ways that you can integrate these tools and teach them how to use them respectfully, but I think it also comes with a culture, like Tayshawn said, of trust and rapport and understanding that life is, not what it was before in the past, and we need to learn to work with our students to make it happen.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Janaea Tomlin. I'm a senior at Pittsburgh Kappa. I agree with Tayshawn, and actually earlier in the other room we were talking about how the use of AI checker was now a thing, but I feel like sometimes those can be used to make you feel like, okay, I'm not smart enough to write a paper like that on my own, because I saw a video and a woman, she actually wrote a paper. She stayed up all night writing an 8-page paper, and her teacher flagged it as AI, but it was actually all of her thinking, all her words and everything. So I just feel like that tries to downplay you as a student and make you seem like you're not smart enough to speak that way. You're not smart enough to use that type of grammar in your papers and stuff like that. And I feel like AI is just kind of trying to mimic the human brain and how we think, and it's affecting not only our classwork but just us as individuals as well. I feel like there might also be some positive effects of it as well. You can use it as to make flashcards for a test or something like that. But I do also agree with there are a lot of negative effects when it comes to AI and AI checkers, because AI checkers are also AI. So it's
Going off what they were saying over there, I feel like another issue is some of the teachers don't really care. I feel like having teachers that actually care about what their students are going through, because at the end of the day, we have lives outside of school. People are playing sports, they have jobs, they have siblings that they got to watch sometimes. I feel like having a teacher that said, I know that y'all have bookmarks and stuff that y'all have to, and agendas that y'all have to meet, but I feel like sometimes if you're just pushing out work and more and more work, that's just pushing the students to like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overworked, I'm overstimulated. Let me just AI this, get it out the way real quick. I feel like having teachers that actually care about what their students are going through more, I think that'll help with AI use, because that's one of my issues. Like one of my classes, like he'll assign like 2 assignments or something like that every day. Plus, on top of other classes, they're assigning work, and then you got practice after school, and then you go home. Now you're hungry. You got to shower. You stink and all that, and then you got work to do. So it's like, dang, it's like I'm not gonna be able to like go on my phone a little bit, chill, because I got all this stuff I have to do. And plus, if you have a job, most of the people they're either having practice later, so they'll go straight from school to work and then practice. You get home, now you're tired, or it's the other. You go to practice, then you got work, then you go home. Now you got all these assignments due. You ain't eat. You might have to watch your siblings, or you might have to study film or something. And then they're just like, all right, well, while I'm eating, I'm just going to AI this assignment real quick and get out the way.
Back to Deshaun's point about the culture and what the superintendent can do about it. So actually the power around this table can help the superintendent change the culture by changing what we measure and what we reward. Within what's measured right now, her hands are tied.
Yeah, because the tools that we have make it very easy to just output. And the teacher wants output from the student wants to get it done like you're saying, because it's the end of the day and you stink and you got to get showered. And so, if we just look at that end goal, that reward, you just hit a button and your paper's done. And that's that. And if look, as a behavioral psychologist, I'm always interested in, the structure of our environment. You know what I mean? I keep the cookies up high, so I have to reach for them and really think about if I want it. You know what I mean? And so I think about that when I think about gun violence, and I think about the ubiquity of guns and the ubiquity of screens. And we create this society that we want. And if those tools are there at our disposal, they're going to be easy to use. And so with something like AI and all the cognitive stuff that we're talking about, that's my language, the school stuff that you guys are all referencing, it's right there, and it's a tool, and we have to be very careful about it, which is why these guidelines are important and legislation is important. But I also think we need to maybe protect the ability to sue these companies when something goes wrong. I know that, with the gun violence issue, there's some issues about how we can't sue, if an incident occurs. I know that the Second Amendment laws are what they are, and I think that's an important piece of that, is to make sure we can have some other avenue to hold these big companies accountable when things go wrong.
I want to bring in Secretary Schmidt about holding the companies accountable, and then I do want to come to Dr. Rowe, who leads our education department, because there have been a number of really important comments about our schools. So, Secretary Schmidt, there was a question as to, hey, can we even hold these companies accountable? I believe we can. Can you talk about our efforts in that space?
At the governor's direction, the Pennsylvania Department of State assembled a task force to focus specifically on this issue. It's made up of some of our most senior prosecutors. We have a prosecution unit at the Department of State, as well as a Bureau of Enforcement and Investigations, so that when people do bring to our attention and report cases like the one the governor discussed, we have the ability to investigate and then bring enforcement actions against bad faith actors who are engaging in this behavior.
And the best way you can help us hold these companies accountable is by giving us your tips. When you see one of these AI companions do something that you go, boy, that doesn't seem okay, or they seem to be crossing a line, we now have a portal where you can very easily, in effect, send a message to Secretary Schmidt so we can go after these companies, pa.gov/reportabot. Very easy, report a bot. And so we want to encourage you to share those tips with us, because that arms our prosecutors with the tools they need to go after these companies. These companies will be held accountable. They do not have immunity, and if they're going to play here in Pennsylvania, if they're going to put their products out in the app stores for our students, they damn well better know we're going to hold them accountable. Let me go to the secretary, and then I'll come over to you.
I have gotten a lot out of listening, particularly to the students and sharing your perspective. And as I was listening to everybody, I was thinking about what actually binds the comments together. And there's a word that exists in the technological world for something that happens and nothing will be the same after that. And the word is singularity. And I think personal computers were a singularity. Wi-Fi was a singularity. And I think we're aware, perhaps for the first time, thanks to the governor's leadership, of the fact that we are in the middle of a singularity. And whenever there's a singularity, we have to decide what pathway we're going to go. Are we going to restrict? Are we going to expand? Are we going to move towards legislation? Are we going to hold companies accountable? What are the best practices? And again, what I like so much about the conversation here today is we're figuring this singularity out together. And we're saying, we think we have some idea about the direction we should go. We want to tell you about those things, but we also want your input. And I love the fact that we're getting student voice involved in this. We're not telling you what should happen. We're asking you for your opinion as users of this, as intelligent individuals who have something of value to share about this topic and so many others. So I'm really excited about bringing some balance into this space. On the one hand, we've heard some really great ways that we can use the AI for tips for studying, perhaps, making flashcards, some great presentations, maybe things as difficult in the therapeutic realm as unpacking a difficult conversation. But then I also hear that we need balance anytime the AI perhaps is prompted with something that shows vulnerability or trauma, or that somebody might be thinking about harming themselves. It's said that in those periods of time that the AI companion bots aren't just inadequate, they're downright dangerous. Because they're created to agree with you. They're created to go along with things. And so we need to have the safeguards. And I love the fact that we're talking about the guardrails as well as the possibilities in education.
Thank you, Dr. Rowe.
Back to Josiah's point earlier, he made a great point about how there's a lot of pressure and things that force students to feel overwhelmed. And one reason that I feel like they do rely on AI in times like those is because we don't really create an environment that teaches them what to do when they're overwhelmed, that teaches them what to do when they're stressed and when they're feeling sad, or when they feel when they feel alone, and like who to go to. We don't really like teach them how to do that. And I guess like that's why it makes it easier for them to run to something that like runs to a solution. I feel like people who do use AI and people who do like abuse any quick fix is people who need a solution to like a problem that they have that they don't know how to figure out, and that they don't know how to bring to anyone else to seek helpers, to seek counsel to help them figure out. And yeah, I just wanted to bring that point up.
I think it's a great point. Dr. Bogan, I want to bring you into this. I mean, you're hearing from students say, I'm turning to these tools, not you necessarily, but students in general turning to these tools when they feel kind of overwhelmed. They don't know where else to go. We know 30% of teens are using these AI companions. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What can we learn from that really thoughtful comment?
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been thinking a lot about the role of healthcare providers in this conversation, because that's what I am. And I think this is a real challenge because we have increasingly become isolated. There was a mention about isolation and loneliness, and we have replaced our relationships with these new tools. And that really is at the heart. I mean, as a pediatrician, what I watch as a child grows is that relationships, right? When you hold a newborn, you smile at them and you look at them and you make eye contact and you really create that start of that relationship. And that relationship builds over time with your parents, with your relatives, when you go to school and childcare, and you build those relationships over time. And unfortunately, I think what we're seeing with these is that those relationships are getting impaired. Starting at a very early age, actually. I remember the first time as a pediatrician, a parent said to me, I think my child is using my cell phone. And I was like, are you sure? And they were swiping, and the 6-month-old was grabbing the parent's phone and swiping, and I thought, that couldn't be. But they had watched their parent. So we have this sort of singularity about how things have changed over time. And we need to get back to relationship building from the very young child through high school and teach both parents, because part of this is really parental. I mean, you're a parent and you're a tech guy, and you have to have that conversation with your child about what is AI, how do we use it properly, and we need to figure out how parents and families maintain personal relationships. And I think that's really at the core, is that we're losing the personal relationships with each other. You know, I mean, I'm sitting here with 2 cell phones in front of me. I'm just as guilty as everyone else, right? We have to figure out not just chatbots, which are really dangerous, but can also be useful because we struggle with those relationships. I think the core is really at that personal human relationship.
Let me ask you kind of chicken or the egg, right? Were we struggling with relationships, and then along came these AI companions, and they were maybe a way for someone to feel that connection? Or did the AI companions and these other technology tools sort of erode the relationships and the ability to have those personal relationships?
I think I personally think that the technology has eroded the relationship over a long period of time, that we've had increasing use of technology without necessarily good education and use of that technology. So, you know, there are some things like putting your phones away at dinner time, having conversations, making sure children don't have, and adults, don't have technology at the bedside, right? So that you get back to personal relationships. And I think it's been an evolution over time. I'm very worried. We look at COVID and what happened in mental health of children and families during COVID. And that really impacted, we saw a huge increase in mental health challenges from isolation and lack of connection. So people did turn to their phones more and more because they were home by themselves. They were using technology at home all day long for learning. But I think that we can turn this all around through really good guidance and remembering very early on and throughout a child's life that personal relationship needs to be at the core of how we help children develop and families maintain control.
Thanks.
I would just add to that, you know, certainly COVID, but when you read a book like Jonathan Haidt and The Anxious Generation and the research that's coming out about, you know, since the iPhone came out in 2007, it was widely adopted in 2010, and you look at the rates, it looks like a hockey stick, you know, with depression, anxiety, anorexia when the front-facing camera came around. So this technology is great, but again, it does erode. And so I think that's my answer to add on to that question.
Josiah?
Going back to what she was saying, I feel like kids are getting their technology earlier, and that's like kind of breaking their relationship with their parents a lot, breaking their relationships with their siblings a lot, because now instead of you playing with your sibling, you're going outside with them. Just throw a tablet in front of them, throw an iPad, throw a phone in front of them. Now they're just glued to their phone instead of actually building those bonds with the people that's the closest to them, that should be the closest to them, because at the end of the day, family is all you have. They're always going to be there for you. At least they always should be there for you. So I feel like that being at home, and instead of just having a device in front of you, I feel like you building that bond is very important in how you grow up and how you interact with other people growing up too.
Thanks. Tayshawn?
Given the fact that I do believe that AI is here to stay because of how much it is advancing and where we are right now, I do feel like we have poorly adapted to it. That like might be the reason why things are at the state that they are. I know its intention was like to market and to enhance, to give opportunities and everything, but I feel like as a society, like it was just kind of forced upon us, especially in the times that we were at, you know, like COVID and everything, like us being back at home, us like kind of being stuck to our devices because, I mean, the idea of being out and connecting wasn't really that prevalent. I know for one thing, like my mom, she'll always talk about how like back in like the early 2000s, back in the early 90s, like everybody was more outside. Everybody was like, back in my day, like people were actually outside. People were actually like playing together. People were actually doing this and doing that.
It's true.
And I realized how much we've progressed as a society. And I know like she talked about singularities, and I guess our singularity that was AI and like how we've adapted to it. And I feel like as a society, since it's going to be here to stay, and since these companies and organizations are going to continue to try to make it better, continue to try to give it more abilities, more power, we have to figure out how we're going to adapt as people. And one thing I feel like we could do to adapt is focusing more on who we are as people and not losing that part. I feel like that's where we flawed at, is we kind of lost who we were at heart. We kind of lost who we were as humans. We kind of lost like that nature because we started to let other things kind of take that away from us, like our critical thinking, our analyzing ability, our writing ability, our decision making, or like just the things, our organization. Like we kind of let that become or rely on the AI because we thought it could do it better. And I know for students, a lot of them don't have that much belief in themselves, because I know a lot of students feel like they're on a different intelligence scale than each other. They feel like they're in competition. They feel like it's set in stone that somebody's more smarter than them and that they're more capable and more qualified. So they don't believe that they'll ever have those skills. They don't believe they'll ever have those abilities. So they just kind of rely on AI to do it. And they don't really have the belief that in themselves to actually build that. So they don't really see the substance of not only just life, but like, process. Like process is something that will be in every aspect of your life. Like, and even in people who are going to be working in careers, like we have people who are overly relying on AI right now, getting every single solution, every perfect answer, perfect number, and perfect diploma to get to where they need to be. And even though they are certified on paper, they're not actually certified at heart. Right. They're not certified in their character. So how are they going to really push us forward as a society if they're not fully there? They're not authentically there, because 30% of their certification, 30% of their of their diploma or of their degree came from AI. Yep. And it didn't come from who they are actually as a person. So when it comes down to how we rely on those people, like we need doctors, we need people who work in like engineers, those people like that. When it comes down to people, like we really need their best skills. How are we going to be able to rely on people who only rely on AI to get there, because they really value the idea of getting that answer, getting that solution, getting that number, rather than how they're going to be able to push the world forward or actually succeed in that career. Like we kind of took away the value of the principles of life and the embrace of life. We don't really fully feel it. We kind of just feel it on the screen, and we feel it in an external validation standpoint, because that's kind of what's been normalized in our society. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe
and
just...
I know this guy, Connor, who looks very, very nice, he's telling us we're right, over time. So
I will wrap it up. I can talk
take a few
very quickly.
And
I've heard words like lightning speed, asingularity, which I just learned, thank you, and transformative technologies, and especially at the backdrop, which we've heard from our health experts about this loneliness epidemic that we have. And it just, in general, feels like we should not be deploying these to children, our vulnerable population, until we understand the brain science more, understand the implications of this. And, we hear a lot about changes we could have in some schools, and what about, and again, I don't expect you to do this tomorrow, but thinking that we shift away a bit from the output, since when they go out into the real world, they're going to have tools that allow for that output quickly, and we double down on all these other skills, learning about human, this is why Avonworth was so amazing for this, and we just sort of double down in those classroom environments to really dig into those social interactions and social emotional development. Finally, I just wanted to say, I hear a lot about, we have to make sure that kids learn how to use these tools. Well, we know and we hear that they can figure them out very quickly, and I trust that these companies will do everything to hack into our brains to understand that we can get that user engagement that they need. I think we can put the onus on them.
Great. Any other final quick comments? Yes, we haven't heard from you.
Kind of similar how Tayshawn was saying, like how people rely too much on AI. I saw this video where people went inside of like a job meeting, and they was basically saying, like reading off of a script. So they would ask questions, and the AI would take those questions and kind of make a summary on what you should say. So like there's no qualifications that you actually have, but you're relying on an AI to like make it seem like you have those qualifications when you have no experience at all.
That's a great point.
About technology. So we talked about what the chicken or the egg. I think technology definitely has the capacity to polarize us, but we are not powerless, and especially those of us in power, I believe, should change how we talk about it. We should start talking to people about seeing each other's humanity rather than making the other an enemy. I think that is feeding the loneliness pandemic. It is breaking us apart, and then technology can definitely amplify that.
Amen. Rep, do you want to share some thoughts?
Yeah, well, I want to thank you for, in state government, we are very fortunate because the governor is really the voice to the public of everything we do in the legislature. He's able to bring that out in front of you in ways that we really can't. There's 203 of us in the State House and 50 of us in the Senate, and the governor's able to bring all this to the public and then bring it back to us in the legislature so that we can see what's going on. And we have a governor who's great at doing that. You've been fantastic with that. I think I'm probably the oldest person sitting at this table, so the closest thing I had growing up to AI were those yellow books, I can't remember the name of them, that summarized War and Peace so you didn't have to read it.
Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
What I really fear...
Not that we ever used them, but we
no,
were
we
aware
never
of
used
them.
them. But we had them, but that's the closest we had. I think what I fear being a lawyer is that I know that now they have AI for attorneys to just say, here's my issue, and you hit the button, and there's your argument in front of the judge. But you haven't put any time into it. And I really worry that you kids coming up, that there's going to be some kids who are going to make it through high school, college, law school, and not know how to communicate.
That's your point.
And just be, you said it so well, and just get through and, hey, here's my argument. But if you actually talked to that person and said, hey, that was a great argument you had in there, they'd have no clue about what they said. And that's not what I want to see happen to you because, quite frankly, you all are going to be taking care of people my age in 20 years or so. And I want people who know what they're doing. And I really get scared about what is going on now with the AI.
One of my final points is I do agree with what you said. I feel like with the introduction of AI, we began to devalue talking to people. We began to devalue relationships. We began to devalue connection. And to highlight Mr. Chris, one thing that's really helped me with that in my teenage years is actually the Boys and Girls Club. It made me feel more comfortable talking to people. It made me like talking to people. It made me like opening up. It gave me a safe space to open up. And it made me feel like I have a place away from an external place or an external, like an AI chatbot or just putting my answer out somewhere else. I found a safe space to actually connect with adults, connect with other youth, and build those relationships, build those emotional values and emotional functions. I figured out how to do that. I figured out how to connect, how to converse with people, and how to value that. I actually prioritize my authentic work rather than an AI work. Whether or not the AI can do it better than me, I would feel more prideful in the fact that I actually did it myself and that it sounds like who I am. And that's one thing I feel like we should be into the value more inside of schools is character. I feel like character will take you, and it'll actually keep you in whatever door that AI will try to put you in. Because you can try to get to those doors, those the best colleges, the best jobs and careers with AI, and you can get that certification, you can get that diploma, you can get that number. But whatever's going to keep you in that door is your character. So if you are without that character, if you were without that process that built you there, then you won't stay in that door, and you will honestly drive us backwards as a society. So I feel like focusing on character, focusing on value and purpose is something that will push us more forward as a society. And valuing that more would also not influence students to use AI more. If they actually valued what they had more inside, they would honestly look down upon an AI rather than if they felt like they can do it better, they would get more dopamine than in putting in actual work and actually going through the process of finishing those assignments, of making those presentations, of organizing themselves. If they could take more ownership in that, I feel like it would be...
It'd feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other final quick comments here?
No, just thank you for coming to Carnegie. Governor Wolf visited us in my first term at the library, and this place is so special to this town. It's been here forever, yeah. And thank you so much for coming here and bringing all this to light, but we're particularly honored to have you here in Carnegie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris will get the last word. I just want to say this conversation is what's supposed to happen at the Boys and Girls Club. There's a depth to places like this. It's not a place just where you run hoops, but actually where you learn to control your anger when you get fouled and interact with someone in a way that maybe you didn't know how to interact with them before. It's a way you can hang out with the counselors and learn a skill, learn something about your friend or someone that you just met. There's just a depth to places like this. And so for us to have what's kind of a tough conversation to sort of sort out how to deal with these challenges, it requires some depth, it requires the ability to communicate, it requires some honesty back and forth, which is the Boys and Girls Club way and which is exactly what you just provided me with. So like how I learned about the need to invest more in mental health counselors in our schools from those students that raised their hand and sent those texts in on Safe to Say, like the listening we've done on a whole host of areas, the listening we did here today is going to help inform the policies that we make all across Pennsylvania in this new space. So I just want to thank all of you, our subject matter experts, our teachers, our educational leaders, and most importantly, the students who are here for helping guide this work. And I hope you'll be proud of the work that we ultimately do as a result of this conversation. So thank you, and Chris, it's your house. You get the final word.
Thank you, Governor Shapiro, and I think you said it best, and Tayshaun said it best, is that this place, the club, is where these conversations should happen. And what gives me hope about the future are these incredible teens and what the resilience and perspective that they share. So I'd love for the group to give a round of applause for their conversations and contributions today. And that's really, and that's why the club exists, and the club needs conversations like this. The club needs champions like Governor Shapiro, Rep. Kulik, and all of us that make this work possible and provide the tools and the foundation that the kids and the leaders of tomorrow need to have to take us to the next level. So thank you for the opportunity to host this incredible conversation. We're honored at the Boys and Girls Clubs and want to continue this work in support of your effort. And I'm uniquely excited about diving into the new literacy tools and report to bots because it complements a lot of the programming we're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're up, Chris. Go ahead.
All right, wonderful. Well, I hope you all were inspired as the conversation that I was. You know, the Boys and Girls Clubs, particularly here in Carnegie, is an organization in place that has served kids in communities to help them prepare for their future in so many different ways. And one of the things I'm most proud of and the Boys and Girls Clubs takes pride in is our ability to respond to the need that we see in our kids and communities. And today's conversation, the leadership that we're seeing from Governor Shapiro and his administration is all about responding to that need. What we're hearing directly from our teens, because that's what we do, we hear from Youth Voice, is that mental health and career readiness are things that they want from the clubs. And AI and technology is at the core of both of those things, both on the positive side of how it can be a beneficial tool to help kids be more resilient and solve problems more effectively and prepare for careers of the future, particularly high-paying careers of the future. But also we know some of the limitations and risks that we heard so eloquently from some of the incredible club teens here today. Us at the Boys and Girls Clubs are really encouraged by the steps that the administration are taking to help prevent some of the challenges and provide safeguards and guidelines to youth that are utilizing this technology, the new toolkit that the governor announced today, and as well as the ability for folks to provide perspective if they come across bots and other challenges that may be negative with their impact in technology or things that impact us, impact our teens. And we're very proud to be a part of this conversation today to advance, we think, a better future for our teens and kids. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Look, it is good to be back in Carnegie, and it was important to be here at the Boys and Girls Club today with Secretary Rowe, who leads the Department of Education, Secretary Schmidt, who leads our Department of State, and of course, Secretary Bogan, who leads our Department of Health. We wanted to be here today because these are the kind of conversations that happen, especially at a Boys and Girls Club, but the kind of conversations that then impact the legislation and the regulatory steps we take to keep people safe. We recognize that AI is here. We recognize it can be transformational in so many good ways, but we also understand it has a lot of risks. And right now, our children are bearing a lot of those risks. I say that not just as your governor, but as a father of four who sees it with our own 4 children. And so it is important that we get this right. It's important that we empower young people to discern fact from fiction, to understand what's real and what's not, to also work with them in a way that doesn't make them feel like these tools are these foreign things that have to be kept away from them, but tools that they can actually rely on that can do some good in their lives. At the same time, you heard one of the comments earlier, which I thought was just so astute, about whether or not these companies could be held accountable for what they do to our children. Here in Pennsylvania, they will be held accountable. And we have, leading that effort for us, Secretary Schmidt at the Department of State. Let me explain how that works. All licensing for professionals occurs through the Department of State. So if you're an AI companion and you hold yourself out as a medical professional, offering advice to young people that could cause them to do harm, we're going to hold you accountable for that, both for violating the licensing requirements here in Pennsylvania and for what you do to our children. We're also going to work with the Attorney General's office and forward any cases over there that fall within his jurisdiction, and I know that Attorney General Sunday is prepared to work on this as well, and we appreciate that. So we're coming at this with everything we have here in Pennsylvania. We take it incredibly seriously, and I'm calling on the legislature to really step up and do the right thing here. We've provided a new toolkit, which we launched today. We have a new way in which parents and teachers and students and others can report this technology that they think has gone awry or maybe has violated some of the rules in Pennsylvania. But we're going to need lawmakers to come together and pass laws to put some greater guardrails here in place, the kind of guardrails that, frankly, our students were calling for. I'm also really just grateful for the teachers and the educational professionals who are here today who recognize the need to listen to young people and to adopt new policies in their classrooms and in their school districts to address this. I think that that's a sign of really wonderful openness from our educational leaders, people who I have great confidence in, who are really on the front lines of dealing with this every day, and I really appreciate their work in this space as well. So with that, I know you all heard the conversation. You may have some questions from that or other things. I'll pause there and invite you to ask questions of any of us up here today.
Governor and Secretary Schmidt, if you wouldn't mind speaking more to the accountability, what enforcement mechanisms do you have? We can file a complaint now, but how do you ensure that those companies actually adhere to, any changes that you want to see?
Sure. Again, if you want to do business in Pennsylvania, you've got to be licensed. And if you're going to be licensed, you're going to be licensed by the Secretary of State. And so we have certain, tools that we have to be able to hold companies accountable if they violate those terms. Mr. Secretary, if you could walk through kind of the approach you've been taking, and also how you want to encourage others to provide you tips as well as you go forward with this effort.
That's right. The Pennsylvania Department of State has a very important role in safeguarding the health and safety of Pennsylvanians in the Commonwealth. We have independent boards that license professionals, whether it's medicine or physical therapy or psychology or anything else like that. So we have an enforcement unit and we have a prosecution unit that the governor has asked us to assemble as a task force to bring attention to this issue. So when we do receive complaints about violations through pa.gov/reportabot, our investigators can take a look at it and bring it to the board's attention for an enforcement action if necessary.
And Mr. Secretary, if you take an enforcement action and determine that they violated our standards on how we license, you can shut them down. You can turn off their business operations in Pennsylvania, correct?
We can, as well as fine them and other enforcement actions like that.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Others?
After the conversations today, is there anything that you took from it that you would like to take to lawmakers to consider for possible policies and further guidelines moving forward?
Yeah, I think students raised a number of really important points. I thought that the way, and I sort of hesitate in answering your question because I'm not sure this is a law necessarily I want to see change, but I was really struck by how the students spoke about how grading incentivizes the use of AI as opposed to incentivizing the sort of creativity of that young person, that there needs to be less of an emphasis on getting the exact question right, more of an emphasis on the thinking process and how they arrived at that conclusion. That's going to be an issue I know Dr. Rowe is going to take back and work with our education leaders. It's not our job to micromanage every classroom in Pennsylvania. We trust our teachers to do that, but we do want to make sure we uplift that message from the students and get that out to our teachers, get that out to our educational professionals so they're able to incorporate that thinking into how they approach grading and how they approach incentive structures within their classrooms. Anything else?
Governor, Dr. Rowe, I'm curious, no students raised their hand earlier. You mentioned the cell phone restriction.
Yeah.
I know it's something that you are calling
They've been
for.
listening to my kids, I think, yeah.
How do you react to that? I mean, do you see any reason to change cell phone restrictions proposed based on that reaction?
Yeah. Look, first, let me tell you what I support. I support a bell-to-bell ban. That if a student brings a phone to school, if that's their parents' judgment that they should have that, that's fine, but then it should be up to the schools where those phones need to be stowed during the day. Maybe in a locker or a book bag. My kids have these like little cubbies in a classroom where they have to leave their phones. So I leave it up to the schools to make that determination, but I think the phones should not be out during the day. I think it's distracting for students. I think it makes it harder for students to interact with one another, to be able to develop the kind of personal, emotional skills that they need to be able to interact with one another. So I support this. I think there's clear majorities in both the House and Senate who support it. I hope the legislature actually returns to work and gets it to my desk soon so we can sign it into law. Why did students react that way? I get it, because right now they have these devices in their hands, and it's something that they're comfortable with. And I trust that the students who are here today use it responsibly. And sometimes, you're not going to please all the people all the time with your positions, but I think ultimately this is something that would be healthy for our school environment and something that I think we need to see. And ultimately it's something I think students will not only adjust to, they'll actually probably find some comfort in it. I experience it in my own home when, we sit down for dinner, for example. This is a small example, but I'll say to the kids, hey, let's just like put our phones on the counter and not at the table. And they'll maybe hem and haw a little bit. But then all of a sudden you find that there's conversations happening that otherwise wouldn't happen if you were peeking on what the score is or taking a look at something on your phone that came from a friend. So I think that initial break may be hard for students, but ultimately once that happens, it'll be a much healthier environment for them, for their teachers, and for the entire school community. Dr. Rowe is the real expert here, so let me invite you up to share some additional thoughts on that.
I've spoken to a couple of teachers about some inventive ways that they've tried to impress upon students how distracting their cell phones are. And it struck me that we could probably do the same thing here. This teacher that I was talking to told me that one day she had the students actually take out their cell phones and put them face down on the desk. And every so many minutes, she would ask how many notifications they had received, and she was keeping a tally on the board behind her. And at the end of the class, it was amazing how many notifications, whether it was from a Facebook or any of the apps that were on their phone, how many that they actually received. And again, it strikes me we could have done the same thing here and shown that same power. When we had set our cell phones aside, how many text messages did we not respond to? How many cell phone calls do we just let go to voicemail? How many of those notifications really weren't that important after all? I think I heard from the kids pretty clearly today, the young people, from the comments that they shared, that they value their education. And they want to really engage in the work that's there. And one of the ways that we can do that is by limiting the distractions, and I think that's what the governor's calling for. So we let our voicemails, or those calls go to voicemail, we let those text messages go by, we let those notifications land and did nothing for the 2 hours that we were here, and everything's okay. And everything's gonna be okay for the students who set their cell phones aside too.
I'll just share with you a quick funny story. Our kids will see something on Instagram or a reel or something and come over to Lori or I and say, can you believe blah, blah, blah happened, right? And Lori and I will always say to them, well, how do you know it's true? Because we want to force them to sort of do their research, check in on what it is that they saw, and then form whatever opinion they want on the issue. Whether it's an opinion I share or not is beside the point. We want them to be curious and find those things out. So when our 15-year-old came home and said, Dad, I saw a reel that you want to ban phones in school. That's not true, right? I was like, actually, that one is true, buddy. So he wasn't very happy.
We have time for one off topic.
What's that? Yeah, go ahead, one more.
Adequacy funds. I'm looking at how they're used already. The PD has a spreadsheet that shows how they've been used already. Mm-hmm. Curious, Governor Shapiro and Secretary Rowe, how you think they've been used, what you think of what schools have been doing with them, and what you want them to see doing with those funds going forward.
I'll begin the answer, and then you should jump in, Dr. Rowe. About a month or so after I was sworn in as your governor, the court ruled that the way in which we fund our schools in Pennsylvania is unconstitutional. And it was unconstitutional, in effect, for two reasons. One, we weren't providing enough funding for public education. And two, the funding that we were providing, we were not driving it out to the districts that need it most, that had the most need. So we came together, I brought Republicans and Democrats together to do two things. One, pass a new funding formula so the dollars get driven out to the districts that need it most. And then two, dramatically increase funding for public education and drive those dollars out under the new formula. On my watch, we have increased funding for public education by 30%. And use this new formula to help the schools that need it most. As a result, we've seen a decrease in class sizes, an increase in the number of mental health counselors. Universal free breakfast is now available in all of our schools across Pennsylvania. We've seen truancy rates go down and graduation rates go up. We've seen test scores begin to rise. Good things are happening. This is not going to obviously change overnight, but we're seeing all positive and hopeful signs. In addition to that, we've been able to use the added funding to put more of an emphasis on career building. Only about 38% of those who graduate the 12th grade are going to go on to college. 62% of Pennsylvania adults don't have a college degree. So we've been really purposeful about roughly tripling our funding for VOTEC, CTE, apprenticeship programs to give more young people avenues of opportunity beyond college if they choose not to go to college, so that they can be set up for their careers. So I think on all of those measures, we're performing really well, and we're seeing the results now of an adequacy formula that is both in place and now seeded with significant more funding than we had the day I started. Dr. Rowe, you want to add to that?
Boy, that is a hard act to follow. We talk about the adequacy dollars in terms of driving out the money to the schools that need it most. So when I think about your question, I think about what does that need look like? It looks like highly qualified teachers. We know that we have a gap in the amount of teachers that we need and the amount of teachers that we have. So for years, we have had this need. Now, with the dollars that are coming into school, we can have the highly qualified teachers. So again, what does that actually look like? That looks like class sizes actually going down. And to anyone who isn't a classroom teacher, you could probably still picture it, 30 sets of little 5-year-old eyes looking at you in kindergarten, or 15. And that's not just picky, that's just not a pedantic example, that's actually happening. We're seeing class sizes reduce across the state so teachers can give more personalized, professional, highly qualified attention to kids. We're seeing libraries bounce back in schools where previously they had been cut due to a lack of funding. We know that libraries can be the heartbeat of a community and the heartbeat of a school. And so now we're seeing those libraries come back. We're seeing in these CTCs that the governor talked about, we need the students to have the right equipment. It can't be 3 versions out of date. We want the students to be leaving their CTC knowing that they worked on the most up-to-date equipment that is available, and these dollars that Governor Shapiro is driving out is absolutely doing that. So these are some of the ways that we're seeing schools use their adequacy dollars, and it is exactly what we want to see.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Chris for hosting us. Thank the members of my cabinet, Representative Kulik, for hosting us here in Carnegie, right in the heart of your district. We appreciate you, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.